News You Need is a look at current events and how they affect the college community and beyond. And now here's the host of News You Need, Dr. Ed Simpson.
All right, well, it is not Dr. Ed Simpson. It's actually Brent Hale. I'm here. So he's away, as was suggested last week. So we're just going to pick right up and go from there. I do have a special guest this week. I have Dr. Paul Strait. Would you like to say hi?
Hi, yes, I'm Dr. Strait. I'm a professor in the school, and I also direct the speech and debate program.
And then I have two returning guests again. Would you like to introduce yourselves again?
Hi, I'm Alexis from Grenada, Mississippi, a biological science student here at Southern Miss.
Hi, my name's Tiana Monroe. I am from Vicksburg, Mississippi, and I'm a biochemistry major here at Southern Miss.
All right, and so could you just one more time tell us about the organization that you are coming in from, and what have you been up to the last week?
We are part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and this past week we had an event partnering with the IOTAs here on campus. We did an event where we painted, the thing was every rock has its story, and so everybody painted rocks the way that they wanted to, basically to just say different things about themselves or whatever. They get to keep the rock, have a memory of the start of school, stuff like that.
And next week we have an event on Tuesday partnered with When We Vote, and we're going to be doing a mock debate, not a mock trial, a mock debate, and just educating people on voter registration and things of that nature.
Now, you brought that up last week, actually, about this mock debate happening. So could you give me some more information, like when is it, what time, where?
So it's going to be Tuesday in Thad Cochran 218 AB, the dual room, and it starts at 6:30.
And what should we expect if we were to show up?
I'd say that to expect a good, fun, a little difference from how the presidential debate would be. It would be more lighthearted, just getting people to understand how a debate would go, just giving them like that. I would say a fun, lighthearted experience while still educating them on it.
Well, it's actually very interesting that you bring that up because we have the coach of the speech and debate team here. What sort of things would you like to see if you were looking at a mock debate?
Well, I guess my question about this is the idea that it would be similar to like the debate between Harris and Trump, like that kind of joint press conference type of debate where there's questions and answers, or like an actual debate?
It would be, so there would be a question presented, and then each side would be able to discuss with their parties for a second, and then the two main people from each side, they get to pick whoever their speaker is, and then they would come up, present their idea of what they feel about the issue, and then the crowd would put in their ballot vote for who
they feel did the best.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good format. I like the idea of the crowd interacting a bit. It'd be cool, too, if the crowd could ask questions at some point and get kind of impromptu answers from the candidates. I always like in a debate where there's back and forth speeches, so more than just person A and then person B and then that be over. Like an opportunity for person A to speak, person B to respond, person A to respond to person B. Kind of that back and forth, I feel like a lot of interesting stuff comes out of it if the people are actually responding to each other.
Right.
I could agree. Maybe we could incorporate that into it some.
Yeah, I think that would be great. So last week we also, Dr. Simpson also had volunteered. He said he wanted to be there. Did you talk to him about that?
Like to the debate? I mean, I don't have his contact information, so I didn't know how to get it to him. But
okay.
we
did
tell
he was
him
interested in being a moderator, right?
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
But we do. But he is 100% more than welcome to come, of course. And we told him when it was and where it was. So.
All right, Ed, if you're listening, you need to reach out so we can actually get this scheduled. Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. He wants to be there. I think that'd be awesome. I would like to be there too. So Tuesday at, you said 6:30. 6:30. Thad Cochran.
Rooms 218 AB.
218. All right. So tell me a little bit about what sort of news are students talking about this week?
I would say I just was looking at this myself. There was a woman in Georgia, and she, after the abortion ban there, she died because of delayed care. Now, doctors are scared to, with this new law and with everything changing, they don't want to cross any boundaries or be first doctor to lose their license because they helped a woman in need.
Right.
And
I think it's really interesting that you keep seeing firsthand that they really do care more about the fetus inside her, the lack of fetus really, because she had already taken an abortion pill and she just had some matter left over in her uterus. But they're still putting this supposed human being over the actual human being right in front of them, the actual human being that has a 6-year-old child who now doesn't have a mother anymore. So instead of taking care of who they actually see right in front of them that has a real life, an actual life that they're living, a family that they have to take care of, they're prioritizing something that isn't even real yet.
Yeah, this continues to be a really big deal. This is something that's coming up every time that at the debate this came up, something that politicians are really having to deal with right now in the post-Roe v. Wade era. So, yeah, this is just a continued complication. Sorry, what were you saying?
We're going backwards. Like, what? I don't understand that. I feel like, okay, this is my opinion on it. Every time that you hear somebody say, okay, but I'm pro-life or whatever, I feel like the basis behind it is usually from a Christian standpoint. Now, granted, I'm a Christian as well. However, I know that in this country that people came to because of religious persecution, not everybody here is a Christian. And so I can't hold everybody to the same standard that I'm going to hold myself to, because we live in a country where you should be free to choose that. So I don't feel like that should be put into our government at all.
I feel like also the pro-life argument is starting to get a little hypocritical as well, because how can you be pro-life of something you can't physically see, but not be pro-life for the person that's actually right in front of you trying to advocate for themselves? It's not giving pro-life anymore. It's giving we want to control women.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an interesting perspective. It's and it's interesting you bring up the kind of religious perspective too, because that is kind of the underlying argument behind the decisions that are being made, and the kind of new legislations being put in place, or old legislations being put back into place, in fact. And to say that that's kind of misconstruing the way we should be thinking about this potentially.
Yes.
Right. It's kind of what you're arguing. Right. To prioritize the woman who's actually here, who's dealing with a complication that's threatening her life. Right. And so we're seeing consequences of
yes.
that.
And she's not the only one who has. I mean, it just came out recently. There have been many people that this has affected and is messed, like they're not here with us anymore, and their family has to suffer the consequences of it. And in the end of it all, the child that they were trying to protect also passed away because the mother was not there to produce the child anymore because she passed away herself. Like,
I just feel like my biggest issue with it is that she had already taken the pill, and the pill didn't do everything that it needed to do. So the thing that they were trying to protect was already no longer viable. So I'm not seeing why they took so long to give her care when it wasn't even a viable fetus anymore.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like there's still, like there was some type of chance for it to still come back to life, when no, like she already had the abortion. She just had to get the rest of it removed from her.
Yeah, most of these states that have these kinds of prohibitions do not make any kind of exception for the fetus not being compatible with life. I had a close friend who had been desperately trying to get pregnant and finally achieved it, and then there was a genetic abnormality, and not only was the fetus not compatible with life, it was creating a toxin in the woman's body that was potentially going to kill her, and she couldn't terminate the pregnancy even at that point until she became septic, and it was a medical emergency. So it's kind of crazy that we say a policy like that is pro-life.
Exactly. It's hypocritical, just like I said, because...
You finish up.
Oh, my bad. It's just really hypocritical, because at the end of the day, if it's really about the life, then there's a life right in front of you that you see struggling, that could potentially end, and you're prioritizing something else over that physical life right there.
So on that note, we're going to take a little pause. We got a couple of ads to get through. We'll be right back.
Sponsorship comes from American Graphics. Located at 8 Commercial Warehouse Drive in Hattiesburg, American Graphics provides custom screen printing and embroidery. They can be reached by phone at 601-602-2277. And the website is goamericangraphics.com. American Graphics, printing at its finest.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopRex.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
All right, we're back. So, what other news do you think is particularly relevant right now for the way students are thinking?
Well, I mean, when I came in, you told me that they tried to assassinate Trump again.
Oh yeah,
So
I forgot
actually
about
brought
that.
that
They
up.
missed again.
Yeah, I brought this up, and it was funny to kind of see your face because I was going through some current news, and you kind of looked at me like, what?
I had 5 tests this week, so I've been in my books. The news ain't seen me.
I see. Okay, well, it's seeing you now.
I see.
So, what did you hear about this?
So I heard that it was another MAGA Republican who recently started to disagree with Trump's stances on things and his policies and his just overall interaction with the world in general. And they took their shot, but they did not really get to take the shot actually. Because
Yeah, they didn't actually get to fire
Yeah.
at all. What have you heard about this?
Yeah, so it was less of an assassination attempt and more concepts of an assassination. I think the guy had.
brother.
Concepts.
The guy had the Secret Service saw a rifle barrel poking out of the bushes, basically, and they were like one hole ahead. And what was interesting to me, and what I think is unresolved, is Trump had only informed the Secret Service that they were doing this outing like 6 hours in advance, but this guy was camped out for over 12 hours at the golf course. So somehow he knew that Trump was going to be there before the Secret Service knew, which I find weird.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to gain media attention. I just feel like it's very strange that every time someone tries to assassinate him, like, he gets more attention from the media and they call him these, like, well, he's a martyr, like a potential martyr anyway. And I really just feel like it's a whole conspiracy. Like, he knows he's losing in the polls right now. He just had that terrible debate with Kamala, and now he needs to garner some type of positive attention from a negative event.
We're delving into some hard speculation here about what could possibly be going on.
I just don't see why. Okay, because anybody who supports Trump, it's not even let me teeter back. They support Trump, and so to see them just flip and be like, okay, I'm gonna shoot him.
Especially for them to know 12 hours before the Secret Service, like, who let them know?
Well, I mean, he
No.
does golf so often. I think it's a pretty good guess. Like, well, I'm going to go hang out and just see, right? I mean, it's possible if that was what was going on here. The guy who was arrested was also a very interesting case of him. He went off to fight, right, in the war in Ukraine. So he was a very interesting character that had these very, I guess you could call it like patriotic, if you want, motivations that he thought he was acting in the best interest of the country in some ways. But I think this is showcasing a continued issue with the Secret Service. I mean, this is hard, clearly, trying to protect Donald Trump in this moment. This is the second time that we've had a close call. And in the immediate aftermath, President Biden actually said, well, the Secret Service clearly needs more. They need more support. This is not working. So it's a very odd place to be where we're living in a new era of violence, political violence.
See, and you see how both times it was a gun, and you see how Trump still isn't trying to pull back on guns. You see how his life was in danger twice, and he still is like, it's fine, guns are cool.
In fairness, so is Harris.
But, like, I don't know. I'm just saying, do you see how, like, all of this is happening, and nobody's sitting there like, maybe we should do something about this?
I feel like the overall discourse around gun control is being overshadowed by, like, immigration and all those other policies that people are more, like, inclined to talk about. Even though gun violence is an obvious problem in the country, people just genuinely feel like there's nothing they can do about it. And then you have people in the higher positions who don't vocally advocate for changing that, especially people like Trump.
So do you think that this is something that we should be talking about more?
Yes, I
Yes.
mean, our first talk, we talked about the school shooting that happened in Georgia. Like, that was only 3 weeks ago, right?
Right around
2,
there,
3
yeah.
weeks ago.
Mhm.
But, and just like it happened, it's like it didn't happen. No one's talking about it anymore until the next school shooting, and then there's more thoughts and prayers. The thing is, like, we have to be proactive about these issues that we already know that we have in the country. And yes, immigration I guess immigration could be an issue. I'm not fully versed on immigration and the issues that everyone sees with it. I don't see an issue with people seeking refuge when they don't feel safe in their country, or just seeking better life if that's what they feel they can get here. Because I mean, some Americans feel like they don't even want to be here, so I don't know. But I could see how it could be a better option compared to other countries. But the one thing that I do know is a full issue is gun control, because we've seen the consequences of it multiple times every year, and there's still not a complete step towards a solution for it.
I kind of wonder if the demonization of some groups could be used to the advantage of trying to push gun control or reframe the debate about it. I'm thinking about when Ronald Reagan was governor of California. They passed significant gun control because it was Black Panthers that were wielding guns, and they were kind of a dangerous group for the kind of people that ordinarily wouldn't be for gun control.
There were air quotes on that for
Yes,
those that are listening on the radio.
dangerous.
And so, you know, maybe if the story is like, do you want immigrants to get guns without a background check? Maybe the kind of person who would ordinarily not be in favor of universal background checks might say, yeah, I don't want immigrants to have them. I don't know if that's a useful or productive thing if it encourages the demonization, but if it takes advantage of that to get people to see that maybe we shouldn't have endless supplies of guns, I don't know.
I feel like I don't want to, I would hate to try to use them as like a scapegoat though regarding that issue. Like, I feel like the children that have died, the teachers that have died, the people that have died should be enough of a reason to advocate for gun control. And then it's just, I don't know. It's like, it's fun. It's not funny, but it's, I'm curious that you brought up the Black Panther Party because of all the discourse that happened with them around Ronald Reagan's governing in California, because like it's not even, yes, they were carrying around guns, but how often did they really like get violent with those guns? Like, what were their overall mission was just to help and advocate for their community, and it's crazy how they were demonized for trying to do that, even though some of the policies, the actions that they took were enacted as policies in the country, such as food stamps and welfare and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, okay, when it comes to the point that you made, I see how that could work and I see how that could be productive, but I also see, like, I know that if I was an immigrant, I would not want to sit there and be like, oh, wow, I cannot believe that they're saying that about us. Like, I mean, would it be productive? Yes, but I wouldn't want to put that on anybody, because also you have to think, not a lot of people that come into our country are simply just seeking refuge from a very bad situation, and then they come here in a place that they think is going to be better, and then you throw that stigma on them that, oh, well, wouldn't want them having access to it, and so then that's even worse.
It's just like the ongoing stigma with like Muslim individuals and being in airports since 9/11. Like, every Muslim, every person of that background is not a terrorist, but you have people that assume that just because of one group that did something in 2001. Not that 9/11 isn't important, it's still important. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying.
Were either of you alive at 9/11?
No.
Yeah, we were.
I had a friend who was a Sikh, and so he wore a turban, and whenever he went to the airport, he had a shirt on that said, "Don't freak, I'm a Sikh." And I was thinking, would it be worse if you weren't a Sikh? I don't know, but I don't begrudge people for their coping mechanisms for dealing with oppression.
Yeah, it's interesting the demonization, you bringing that up. Right now, immigration is that. If you continue to think about what's being said about poor old Springfield, just continues to be talked about. I've had a couple of conversations even this week with folks that were saying, like, you know, I saw this video and I know that it's happening. It's definitely happening. I've seen it online. I'm seeing evidence. People from Springfield saying, I saw it. And there's been so many rebuttals of that.
You mean in public? Like, you've had those conversations, like, in public?
With
like,
a person in front of my face, yeah. Right.
I'm sorry.
How do you respond to that?
It's very hard, right? And I think that's actually something that's worth talking about is how do we today deal with just the pervasiveness of misinformation and disinformation? Is that something that you all think about?
Yes, all the time. Because, okay, we're president, vice president of our chapter. At all times, we have to make sure that we're responding appropriately to people, 100%. And, you know, sometimes I just have to sit there and say, I appreciate that opinion, and I just walk away.
Because it's really hard to argue with somebody who just takes what they see as face value and doesn't have any like wherewithal to think like, maybe that's not true. Because when I heard that, I was like, wait.
I looked it up.
Yeah, it's Google is literally at our fingertips every minute of the day. So for them to hear that, see it on TV, say, oh, I've seen it in person, which I don't believe. I don't believe anyone has ever seen somebody eat an animal, someone's pet, in person. Like, I think that's very far-fetched. I think that's very hard to believe. And it's just crazy because for you to sit there and not have any conscious thought, like, maybe I should research this on my own time or just research it right now as they're talking to me about it, and to stand 10 toes on an argument that you're not even 100% sure about is insane.
Well, you know, the idea of I'm going to look it up and see what the answer is, but that's kind of the problem, right? Is when you Google something now, you have to do an extra step of actually filtering through the results that you get. I mean, you can find, if I want to see, are people in Springfield actually eating pets? I can find stuff that says 100%, and here's a video of it. How do you confront that? So I'm asking you all as students who are, you know, having to interact, you're motivated students interacting with other people of your age. How do you deal with that?
You just have to have a sense of discernment regarding what articles you're looking at. Like, if I'm not taking like a World Times article versus this random place in the middle of nowhere, like, I'm probably gonna hold the World Times article at more regard than the random place in the middle of nowhere. Or even you have to know which ones are just satire, because there are a lot of news platforms that are just strictly for satire, and you have to be able to discern that for yourself, because there are a lot of mechanisms of misinformation on the internet, and it's hard, but you just have to be able to sort through it.
So from your perspective, you have to be literate in what you're looking at. You have to, it's what we call media literacy. You have to be literate in what you're looking at and knowing where it came from, who produced it, why they produced it, what you're seeing. That's hard, though.
Yes, right? But it's necessary, because when you go through like satire, platforms that just publicize satire, you have to not only just look at that article, but look at previous articles that they've written. What have you heard about those things? Do you know if that's true or not? Or were these things already proven to be false? And then you use that to cater your response to anything else that they write.
Another thing is, if you're not sure about something, if you've looked it up, if you don't know what's going on, maybe let's not speak about that in public.
Interesting.
Maybe let's just keep that to ourselves unless we know for sure.
That also kind of jives with what you were just saying a minute ago, where you were like, if someone's saying something to me, it's best to just kind of exit out of the conversation. I mean, so that's kind of the approach that you seem to be taking, like, let's just kind of put ice on this. Let's actually take a little break here. We've got a couple of other commercials. We'll be right back.
Since 1927, the Student Prince has been a direct conduit to USM students. Get your share of the more than $600 million USM brings into South Mississippi by advertising your business or service in the Student Prince. To find out more about how to advertise in the Student Prince, email sm2sales@usm.edu.
My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I was very independent. I fell, and I had to have Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
All right, we're back again. So I want to just continue the conversation here. I'm actually going to turn to my guest, Dr. Straight, here to ask, what do you think we should do? I mean, if we're interacting with somebody and it's clear that they've fallen into some sort of a trap that you know can't possibly be true. They can't possibly be eating the cats. What's the next step? What do you think?
Well, I think it's tricky because there is distracting information that is maybe rooted in fact a little bit, but then once you go deeper, it turns out not to be true. For example, on this question, they asked J.D. Vance, what's the evidence of this? And he was like, here's a police report of somebody who went to the police and said, my Haitian neighbors ate my cat. What they didn't tell in that was that afterwards they found the cat. It was in the basement, and then they had gone and apologized. But they didn't look for that. They just wanted to see what evidence existed. They had some real thing they could point to, and they went to it. And I think the satire sites is a good example too, where I would put satire in scare quotes here, because good satire, you can tell that it's satire, right? It's but what we see a lot of times are sites that are engineered just to make things up. I saw an article the other day that was like, Jason Aldean turned down a $500 million deal with Taylor Swift because she's too woke, and people were sharing it and was like, yeah, that's good for him. Way to put values before money. It's like, this isn't true. This site calls itself a satire site, but it's not even satire. This is just a made-up story that is designed to get engagement. It's the kind of story that has a headline that people will want to share and will inflame some passion. So what to do about it? I feel like, in a classroom, if somebody brings something like this up, a useful thing is to spend some time and say, okay, let's collect some evidence and see if we really think this is true. But in a situation where you don't have an opportunity to do that, it's tough. I think you've got to gauge, is this a stranger? Maybe I don't talk to them. But if it's somebody that you have a personal relationship with, maybe you can ask them to explore why they think that, and then put it up to say we have a testable hypothesis here. Let's look at the evidence and agree to agree with whatever the evidence says. I don't know. It's tough. These kind of conversations are really difficult.
And I agree with what you're saying. That's why I really did appreciate the fact that they had fact checkers during the debate. Immediately after he said that, they were like, oh, well, we got in contact with the people in Springfield, Ohio, and they said this is not happening. But J.D. Vance-wise, he literally said that if I have to make up stories to get the media to pay attention, then I'm going to do that. And that was very shocking to hear him just openly admit that he will
lie
wholeheartedly, make up a story that sounds pleasing to the ear just so people can pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, I found that very troubling myself. Just the idea that we're just totally going to just give up on truth and just share what we have to in order to get things done the way that you want to get them done. I think that's pretty crazy myself. So, any final words?
Do your research. If it sounds too good to be true or too bad to be true, it probably is.
Fair enough.
Mine is going to be, whenever we vote, please think about more than just yourself and how the whole world's going to look out. And don't listen to misinformation. And if you're hearing misinformation, go do your own research. Google is totally free.
Any final thoughts?
It's okay to not know something. I think a lot of people they hear something from somebody they like and they want to agree with it. It's okay if you don't know for sure, to say, you know what, I'm not sure about this.
And my final thoughts would be good to one another. So this will close out for today. Our producer for News You Need is Lillian Scott. Our videographer is Blake Brooks. And our engineer is Trederica Winters. Thank you all so much. See you next week.
This has been News You Need with Dr. Ed Simpson. News You Need airs Friday afternoon at 12:30 on Southern Miss Radio.